Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today we're talking about the conspiracy of silence that surrounds fentanyl. In 5 years, fentanyl deaths rose 31% to 87% in Iowa. Now it's the leading killer of Americans. More than gun and auto fatalities, fentanyl is literally poisoning America. Derek and Kathy recently lost their 17-year-old son Sebastian to a fentanyl poisoning and overdose. They are on a mission to expose the growing risk of fentanyl as a killer on the wave of an opioid epidemic that's still growing. Let's meet our guests. Welcome to the show, Derek and Kathy. Derek, start out by telling us a little bit about why you're here today.
Well, we're here to try and bring some awareness to this epidemic. We did lose our son last year, and it kind of opened our eyes to what's going on. So we're on a mission to get the word out and to warn other parents and honestly anyone that will listen as to what's going on.
Now, Kathy, tell us a little bit about Sebastian, because it's such a terrible accident with this poisoning of so many things by fentanyl, which has no legal precedent. It's just a completely illicit market. But your son was a great kid. Tell us.
He was a great kid. Yeah, I would need hours to go into extreme detail, but he had beautiful eyes, long eyelashes, great smile. And the best thing about him was his big, generous heart.
Did you have any indications? I know you didn't, as you would have done something, but do you have indications, things that you might have seen that make you look back and go, oh my gosh, how did I not know this?
He was like any other teenager in some aspects. You know, he was dealing with a lot. Things progressed gradually, so you don't really notice the subtle changes. So I knew that he was struggling with some things. I knew that he was battling some things internally. We weren't aware, that he was taking Percocet towards the end to try and get some relief. Honestly, we had no idea that was going on.
And afterwards, I know you had quite a sort of cathartic moment, because you looked at this fentanyl thing and you, as parents, you realized you didn't have any idea that threat was out there.
We had no idea what fentanyl was until this happened to Sebastian. So, and we like to think we're pretty informed, educated people. So our thinking is, gosh, if we hadn't heard of it, who else hasn't heard of it? Who else needs to hear?
Yeah, because we talked about this, before the show. This was not a kid that had a bad drug problem. This is a kid that was poisoned by an illegal product that was replicating. It was a counterfeit medication for which there's no legal precedent. Now, as you negotiate that landscape and you look at that and you realize how many people are dying from these things, I'm sure that was a core to inspire you to start doing what you're doing now and trying to talk to other parents. What were some of the big moments for you?
Well, I think there's a lot of kids that are dealing with what he dealt with and have to, it's not even starting with self-medicating. He dealt with migraines as, when he was younger and, took pills for migraines. He had collarbone surgery and he was prescribed medication for pain there. He was suffering from depression and anxiety, and he was given medication to combat that. So he was used to taking pills. And I think that there's a lot of kids out there and they don't think that anything is wrong with it. They don't look at it as self-medicating as a bad thing. So, I think in his mind, he was just trying to make himself feel better, not necessarily, doing it for other reasons.
So if we look at the path, there's a tremendous ability of good things that come out of medicine that's prescribed by a doctor and comes through a pharmacy. But apparently, in America, a huge number of people are dying from poisoning from drugs that are completely counterfeit, that are not coming through those traditional channels. And we know that perception of risk is a huge thing for kids. If they know it's going to hurt them, they won't do it. But they don't always know, just like you admitted as parents, at least, you don't always know all these risks are out there. Is that the primary message, that kids need to connect with things through a doctor and a pharmacy and reach out for other ways, because this is out there that's so dangerous that anything outside of that loop could kill you?
Well, I think that's a good place to start, but just getting the information out to the public that this is going on and educating them from that standpoint is going to help. But the problem is that people they don't know it's an issue. Kids are trusting, they're naive, and so are parents. So if they don't know, then they can't make those decisions.
Well, we're going to take a short break and come back and talk about what people need to know, because I know you've become pretty expert at some of these things. Stay tuned. We'll see you all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening. Our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Not all internet is priced this good. Switch to Extreme and go super fast for as low as $19.99 a month for a year. Oh yeah, hook up your home with powerful Wi-Fi, 99.99% reliability, and speeds that are FCC proven to be faster than advertised. Not all internet is priced this good. Switch today and get speeds starting at 100 meg for as low as $19.99 a month for a year. Call 844-EXTREME2 for details.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and we're talking with Kathy and Derek about the fentanyl crisis and the need to get the warning out that this is a clear and present danger. The rate of overdose deaths is growing despite what's being done to stop it, but the numbers and the problem have some staggering perspectives that Derek will give us a view of.
Well, I think the one that sticks out to me the most is that the adolescent deaths in 2021, they attributed 77% of those now to fentanyl. And that to me is staggering for 14 to 18-year-olds. It's becoming more and more prevalent with high schoolers and now getting back down into the middle school ages. So it's definitely becoming a problem with our youth.
And you're pretty passionate about the fact that these are overdoses. These are poisonings, flat out.
Yes, for lack of a better term, I would rather use the term poisoning rather than overdose, just because they don't know what they're taking. I think most of these kids probably think they are actually taking a Percocet or a Xanax, or OxyContin or anything else, and that's not the case. They're taking a fake pressed pill with fillers and fentanyl, to get the relief or, whether it's for another reason or to get high or whatever. But I don't care what kind of pill you're taking. If you're taking a half a pill or a full pill, you're not going to overdose from it. I just read a story the other day that boys shared 2 pills and one of them died. So it's, it doesn't take much, and they refer to it as Russian roulette. and you just never know which section of a pill contains, the fentanyl or the main source of fentanyl, or, it's like a chocolate chip cookie. You can get a bunch of chocolate chips, or you can get none at all, and that's kind of what we're dealing with here. So there is no guarantee that you're going to survive.
And that's a great point that you make, because kids, or adults for that matter, don't know how risky it is. I mean, it doesn't take more than a grain of sand, a quantity the size of a grain of sand, to kill a human being. Flat out kill them. And for all practical purposes, nobody's saying, hey, I want some fentanyl. Nobody is out looking for fentanyl. And yet there's an entire black market saying we want to profit off addiction, and they're willing to mask fentanyl, making it look like legitimate prescription drugs. Now, from your experience, if you put the prescription drug, legitimate one, next to the counterfeit pills, can you tell the difference?
Well, first off, any person that is looking at a pill, unless you look at them daily, you're probably not going to know the difference anyway. But they are so similar. The answer to that question is no. You aren't going to know. So if it appears to be a Percocet, they just assume it is a Percocet. If they have a friend that has been lucky enough to have taken them and survived for a few months, then they trust them. So there really isn't any reason to, for them to be concerned. They have a so-called trusted source. And unfortunately, that's happened far too often. And that trusted source has been the lucky one. And the new kid on the block trying something out or needing something is the one that suffers the fate.
So unless you're at a pharmacy getting it from a pharmacist, where we know they're not putting fentanyl to other pills, you never know. You're right about the Russian roulette. You never know. But we do know one thing about kids. We know that they learn quick. And right now, a lot of them have paid the price for their youthful experimentation, the things that they're doing. Do you think that there's hope? I mean, looking at it as a parent, how many parents do you encounter that are now thinking like you are, that this is something we really need to know about, it because it is a big threat?
Well, I know that both of our phones have been blowing up. We've done some interviews and gotten our story out there, and we've received message after message. People that have come out and said, this also happened, to my son or daughter. And I think that people are just because of the stigma, because of the fear of embarrassment, for their child and their family, that they don't talk about it. A lot of this doesn't come out for weeks and weeks because of the autopsy report. They have to wait for that. So by the time they have the service, they still don't have an answer. But even after the fact, by then, they don't want to share the information just because they don't want to deal with the embarrassment. And unfortunately, if we don't talk about it, then we aren't going to know about it. We aren't going to understand the numbers. We aren't going to understand the dangers. And that's why we're here. We refuse to let our son's death be in vain.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll ask Derek and Kathy to explore the reasons why so many young Americans, aged 17 to 43, are disproportionately affected, poisoned, and killed by fentanyl. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening, our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Not all internet is priced this good. Switch to Extreme and go super fast for as low as $19.99 a month for a year. Oh yeah! Hook up your home with powerful Wi-Fi, 99.99% reliability, and speeds that are FCC proven to be faster than advertised. Not all internet is priced this good. Switch today and get speeds starting at 100 meg for as low as $19.99 a month for a year. Call 844-EXTREME2 for details.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're talking with Kathy and Derek about fighting stigma and the lack of resources to fight addiction and a growing fentanyl crisis. Kathy, you're out there, you talk to people. What's it like to have these conversations with parents?
It's hard for parents. You know, there's so much of a stigma that's associated with drug use, and whether it's a one-time use or someone that has had a problem for years, there's a reason why they got there, and that needs to be talked about. And parents need to talk to their kids more about drug use, how easy it is to get them, get addicted to them, relying on them. It's a tough conversation to have. It's hardcore, but it needs to be had.
You know, we have a lot of research that shows that kids do not want to disappoint their parents. But in order for them to not disappoint their parents, they have to find out what their parents believe in, what they think. So it's a job of a parent to make that evident. But there's another fascinating thing, is that oftentimes in crisis, we're sort of a male-dominated culture where the man is the brave and the strong. But when it comes to kids, boys and girls alike, they really hate disappointing moms and grandmothers. So if a mom makes a statement or takes a stand or points something out to their child, that tends to be a powerful, powerful tool to keep that child from doing risky things. And that correlates to something we call perception of risk. And that has to get through the whole wall of stigma. As you get to parents, and you're a professional businesswoman, so you sort of know the whole schema of people and action to make things happen, what do you think we need to do to get parents throughout the state to really take an active role in talking about this with their kids?
This is helping, certainly. The exposure from the media, I think it makes a great way to start that conversations with your kids. And maybe it's just sitting down and rewatching a segment, whether it's a news segment or something like that, just to get the conversation started. I know growing up, I remember those rides in the car with my mom. And sometimes I hated that. I was like, I know as soon as we get in the car and it's just the two of us, we're going to have a conversation, you know, but we have to now. I mean, this is life and death. This is far different than a lot of things that I encountered as a child.
Now, as you honor your son with your efforts, what are some of your plans for the future? I know you're getting great support from the media, but you're also thinking about some other projects, aren't you, Derek?
We are trying to create. We're in the process of creating a website that the parents across the nation that are passionate about this can use as a tool to get in and talk to other groups, whether it's youth groups, church groups, schools. It's difficult to get in there, again, because of the stigma. They don't want to talk about it. And some parents don't want it in the schools and all that, but we have to educate. That's where it's going to start. So we're trying to create basically a one-stop shop with our website that's going to give everybody the tools to be able to present this, or at least give them the site so they can look things up themselves and get an understanding of what's going on. That's where we're going to put our focus.
What are some of the, without naming anybody specifically, what are some of the things you've encountered as you're trying to get into schools and things like that? I mean, because actually school boards and administrators, they're parents too. You'd think it would be as important.
Well, again, I think it comes back to the stigma. Once they find out how somebody passed, it's almost like they roll their eyes, internally, and just kind of brush it off. they will listen if you knock on the door hard enough and enough times. But unfortunately, as soon as they hear that, how they died, it's put on the back burner. And I don't know if it's policy in some cases or whatever, but to me, it's an urgent matter. And I certainly would want it addressed in any group that I'm in. If one of my students or one of my players, one of my kids, had suffered this fate, I would want to make sure that nobody else did. So I don't understand it, but we're trying to get around it, trying to deal with it, and we're trying to make it easy for them.
So we have this large impediment called stigma. How do you talk about stigma with kids? Is this a difficult concept to get children to understand stigma? Because, it may be stigma that drives them away from listening to parents too. I don't know. What do you think, Kathy?
I do. We've heard the label good kid, bad kid, good parenting, bad parenting. And that's probably been frustrating. We've had a lot of people say, oh no, I'm a good parent. I keep track of my kid. I know where they're at. My kid's a good kid. Well, you know what? Our kid was a great kid and we knew where our kid was. You can't think that something like this can happen just based on good or bad parenting or good or bad kid.
Yeah, the drugs, the predators don't discriminate. And yes, you're absolutely correct. That is a very, very powerful message. We're going to take a short break, and afterwards we're going to ask Kathy and Derek to share some final comments, insights, and inspiration. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At MediaCom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared, and you can be certain we'll keep your world connected.
Whether it's advice on managing your anxiety or tools to help you stay grounded, Coping-19 provides a range of resources and self-care tips to help you cope with this pandemic. We can help. Find the resources that work best for you at coping-19.org.
Surviving Bad, we're talking about the conspiracy of silence that surrounds fentanyl, a deadly killer that we cannot seem to stop. Let's see what insights and advice and inspiration Kathy and Derek have to share with us. Derek, let's start with you.
Well, I guess first I want to speak to the kids, just in case there's any watching. Regardless of what the reasoning is, whether you're going through physical pain, emotional pain, experimentation, peer pressure, whatever the reason is, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to talk to your parents. Sometimes your friends aren't the best option there. With all these dangerous substances out there, that's certainly not the way to turn. And I know sometimes they feel that that's the only place they can turn, but it's not. There's definitely some help out there, and it's the way that they are feeling is okay. Everybody feels like that at some point. So they're not alone, basically. To the parents, I would ask that they remember when they were teenagers and how hard it was. And remember that, we didn't always do what our parents told us. And I know that, they want to think that we all want to think that we're going to raise our kids differently, and our kids are going to abide by our rules, and they're going to do what we say, and all that. But that doesn't happen. Kids experiment. They try smoking. They try drinking. They don't always do what they told. They stay out late. They lie about where they're going. I mean, we all did it. This is no different. This is no different. And I understand that that parents don't want to think that their kids are doing some of these things, but these pills especially are just as common now as drinking at a party in high school was when I was a kid. So, the not my kid, or my kid's a good kid, my kid wouldn't do that. That does not apply.
And Kathy?
To add to that, to the parents, again, with the conversations, I know it's hard. I know it sucks. I know when you're excited about going to events and you're getting caught up in life and you're doing all these things that are so fun and enjoyable. And especially now in summer, it's the light time, it's the fun times. You got to take the 5 minutes and have the conversation. I know we keep reiterating that, but you can't just have it once. It's one of those things you have to talk about a lot. And yes, you're going to get rolling eyes. You're going to get, oh, Mom, I know. Oh, Dad, I know. But keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Derek, we know that this problem is bigger than just parents, but the responsibility is falling on the shoulders of parents, which is why you're doing what you're doing. What would you say to our legislators and other people and what they need to do to help move a solution forward?
They need to do a better job of getting the word out there. It's not. There's a few that are starting to, to get it out to the public and make them aware of what's going on, but they need to be better. And it truly does take a village. We, from a parent's perspective, and the legislators, most of them I'm sure are probably parents as well. But the more that we all as adults talk about this, the more that we can support each other, the easier it's going to be to talk to all of the children, not just our own.
Well, I thank you both for joining us today and sharing this important message. We wish you luck in your journey and hope to have you back on the show to find out how things are going. Thank you all for joining us today. Check out our website, ahealthyiowa.org, and keep your eye on MediaCom MC22 for our next episode of Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. On MediaCom MC22, your local programming leader.